You will have 16 to 18 minutes to present. 5 minutes will be indicated by the green card, 2 minutes by the yellow card, and 1 minute by the red card. At 30 seconds remaining, I will indicate the countdown like so and cut you off at the end of that time. This will mark the beginning of 5 minutes of Q&A. At the 4-minute mark of the Q&A session, I will make a sound like this to indicate 1 minute left for the Q&A session. At the end of the 5 minutes, you may finish answering the last question. After that, no further questions may be asked. Good luck, you may start when you're ready.
Alright. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan, and these are my colleagues, Sagar, Mariana, and Anisha, and today we are so excited that you've invited us here to talk about Big White, and hopefully we can bring as many people up to the hill as possible in 2016. So, with our recommendation, it's our hope that your company will be able to integrate and utilize the booming economy in Kelowna, as well as increase the accessibility to current as well as future customers, and build a community that really engages and enhances student life in the Okanagan. So, community. No matter who you are or what you want to do, there's something for you at Big White. Whether you want to have a nice meal, go for a ski, go for a snowboard, maybe do a little bit of ice skating, Big White is the place for you, and it's inclusive for everyone. This includes families with young kids who are learning to ski, and people who have been attending Big White for years and years. And we want to make sure that we implement this core value that Big White has in every step that we make moving forward. So, the primary issue that we've identified is we want to make sure that we are attracting new as well as retaining current seasons pass holders in our recommendation. Secondly, we want to really reduce barriers that people might have in terms of purchasing seasons passes. Create and maintain an effective internal organizational structure. So in this, we're talking about what's going on in Australia as well as what's going on currently here in Kelowna. And build a strategic marketing strategy to attract new seasons pass holders without neglecting our seasons pass holders that have been consistent over the years we've been in operation. In our recommendation, we've identified 3 key performance indicators that are really going to allow us to measure our success as we move forward. First, the number of seasons passes sold. Secondly, we're going to look at the percentage of seasons pass renewals. So this is who's purchasing seasons passes and is continuing to purchase them. And the percentage increase in overall foot traffic at Big White in 2016. We've also identified some strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we might see as we move forward. The first strength is that Big White really does have a competitive price in terms of student passes. It has a large range of facilities, and the pricing is really quite low, so that's why we're seeing students from Okanagan College, the high schools, and UBCO going back time and time again. The weaknesses is the internal structure is not really operational currently, and Big White, we're seeing you guys are having trouble communicating with your Australian team and the Kelowna team, and we really want to facilitate easier communication between the two. In opportunities, we are seeing an economic boom in the Okanagan region, and we want to capitalize on this. There is a large group of individuals coming in with a lot of disposable income, and we want to make sure that they're spending their disposable income at Big White instead of at our competitors. Of course, we are also seeing a trend in decreasing annual attendance fees, so this is something that your company is definitely going to have to keep in mind as we move forward in our recommendation. We've also done a bit of an industry analysis, and just to provide a visual for you here, it's quite obvious that Big White has a large space to play in. In terms of the size of the resort is quite large, and the price of the student pass is quite low. So in our marketing, we want to make sure that we are really emphasizing the strength that Big White has here and proving that it is the best option in this respect.
So the first strategy that we would like to implement is expansion. The expansion of recreational facilities up at Big White so that more students and other pass holders are incentivized to come. For this strategy, the organizational structure needs to be expanded, and hence more members need to be added to the team, leading to a more formalized structure. Also, a couple of the marketing strategies that we thought would be good for you are the current attacking the current customers. These current customers will form a base to let everyone else know about the strategies by word of mouth, spreading these strategies in a very cost-effective manner. A couple of the pros of this are competition. Big White will be entering the competition of larger ski resorts at this moment. And also it will retain its customers at the same time because it's one of the resorts that's closest to Kelowna, and secondly offers so many facilities at a very competitive price. However, this method is highly expensive to implement. This is because of our budget constraint, hence loans and funding may be required. Also, the elimination of the organic internal structure to a more formalized structure may lead to resentment among employees to a certain extent, and it is very time consuming. Hence, the return on investment will be seen after a significant period of time. The second strategy that we have for you is the off-mountain collaborative approach, in which segmented season passes are given out to different demographics of customers depending upon what they want from Big White. In this case, for the organizational structure, there needs to be efficient and communication, interaction, and working with the customers really efficiently on both the Australian as well as the Canadian parts of the executive team, which will lead to a cohesive working environment and facilitate this strategy to its fullest. For the marketing strategies, for students, social media influencers can be used, and social media influencers will be provided cash-based incentives in order for them to attract more students towards this strategy. Strategic partnerships with other ski resorts in the area, in and around the area, will provide a variety for the customers, like different varieties of places to do winter sports, and also will reduce costs of advertising for Big White, as the other resorts will be advertising too. Also, the partnerships in the city with firms like Costco, Walmart, Montana's Independent, etc., will allow Big White to have a presence in Kelowna while not physically being here. Also, for another strategy for the community could be having a music festival or concert with Kids Sport, which is an organization for the underprivileged in Canada, for the underprivileged children who want to do sports. And this shows that that Big White is giving back to the community, and at the same time 10% of the proceeds from this can go back to charity, showing that this is an extremely important aspect of the core values of Big White. The pros of this strategy include repetition purchase of season passes. In this, it means that the students want to make this skiing or winter sports a part of their student experience, and not only buy the pass for 1 year, but buy it for several years to come as well. Also, this broadens the reach of Big White to all students from all kinds, students of all kinds. And also it improves the brand image of Big White, making it an integral part of the Okanagan community. It is a very cost-effective approach because, as you can see, the marketing strategies do not require that much amount of money and are at the same time retaining a lot of potential customers. However, the elimination of organic structure may also cause the employees to take a lot of time to adjust, and this may be a problem. And also, the long-term maintenance of the negotiations and the agreements with other firms will take a lot of time. The reliance on market-based research is really significant because you, as a firm, you would need to know what your competitors are doing, and at the same time, the students of that year may have different requirements, and that's crucial to know.
The third strategy that we're proposing is for your company to exclusively partner up with UBCO because it has the largest student base in Kelowna and it's increasing rapidly each year. Working directly with the student clubs at the university, your company would be providing discounts to these student teams in order for them to host their events at the ski hill in order for them to ski more and not do other outdoor activities. We think that it would be effective for your company to have an ongoing campus representative at the university, answering questions, concerns, giving direct information to the students while enhancing the image of incorporating your company to part of the UBCO lifestyle. We also think that it would be very efficient for your company to reduce the focus on the Australian-based customers in order to provide more resources for UBCO and focus on the local market. The pros of this approach is that your company would have a permanent, ongoing supply of customers, while incorporating itself to the UBCO lifestyle, And by narrowing down the market, it would be very efficient to implement this approach. The cons of this approach is that there's a high degree of politics in incorporating with UBCO, and it would be excluding itself from a lot of vast markets potentially outside of the university. Also, it would be extremely expensive to have an ongoing representative at the campus regularly. As you can see in our strategic evaluation, the expansion approach would take a moderate amount of time to implement. It would have a moderate amount of past purchases, and it would be extremely costly for your company. The off-mountain approach, collaborative, would have a vast impact in past purchases. It would take a moderate amount of time to implement, and it would be cost-effective. The exclusivity with UBCO approach would have a very low impact on past purchases. It would have it would take a moderate amount of time to carry out, and it would be extremely costly. Overall, we think that the optimal decision for your company is to choose the off-mountain collaborative approach because it has the largest potential customer reach, it is extremely cost-effective, and it will take a moderate amount of time to carry out. This approach emphasizes your company's vision on having a family-friendly resort while creating a presence at the community of the Okanagan Valley, uniquely distinguishing itself from other competition.
So, as Mariana mentioned, with the Off-Mountain Collaborative, what we really want to do is we want it to be simple. Not only for the influencers, but simple for your company to implement. Additionally, we want to be engaged, not only with the student population, but with the population of Kelowna, the people who are currently buying passes at Big White, and our Australian counterparts. We want everything that we do to make a large impact, and things like the charity event and other activities like that are what's really going to bring this together. And overall, we want a sense of community. We want Big White to be present, not only at the Big White, but everywhere in Kelowna, and really tightly with UBCO and Okanagan College. We've also identified 4 different students that might have barriers in terms of purchasing season passes. The first student that we've identified is a student that's just excited to learn. This might be an international student who's really excited at seeing snow for the first time. They really want to learn how to go skiing, but they don't have the skills or resources, and that might prevent them from purchasing a season's pass. The second student is the student who just says skiing is too expensive for me. This might be an advanced or intermediate skier, but they just are unable financially to afford a season's pass. But they might be engaged with different things like promotions, deals, and contests. The third student that we've identified is the one that just doesn't have time to ski. The student might study a lot, they might have a part-time job, and they don't go skiing enough to really pay off a season's pass. The fourth student is the student who doesn't have a ride. This student loves skiing, and if they had the opportunity, they would be at Big White every single day of the week. However, they need consistency in transportation to really make that investment and buy a season's pass.
Now, considering our recommendations, within our first phase, right away we want to formalize the management organizational structure. Now, we want to segregate this into 2 different divisions, first being the upper level and the middle level. And the upper level would include the executives, the board of directors, and the major shareholders. And the mid-level would include the managers of each of the respective departments like finance, marketing, and sales. And below the mid-level would be the teams of the respective departments, and below the teams would be the day-to-day operations of the firm. And after formalizing this structure, we would also want to conduct market research. Now, doing market research would have to be, is very paramount because this would allow the company to understand their demographic and also what the preferences of the demographic is. So our sales and marketing analyst team would be conducting this. And this would take 1 to 2 months to conduct because the first month would be gathering the surveys of the seasonal passes when purchasing it. And then the second month would be finalizing that data and making sure that it fulfills the hypotheses and also the needs of the upper level management in order to pursue their goals. So after conducting market research, we would also contact firms for partnerships. So we would be contacting these off-mountain firms, And by doing this, we would create a competitive advantage and also create discounts for our seasonal pass holders. And this would also take a full year in order to communicate with them back and forth, considering their responsibility. And after this, we would also recruit influencers from UBC Okanagan and also Okanagan College and establish a scholarship and sponsorship basis in which incentivizes the students to actually get more season pass holders and actually sell them. So going on to our second phase, we would introduce 4 different passes as mentioned earlier, and this is to cater to the different target markets. So this would approximately take 3 months for the sales and marketing team to establish, since our market research and evaluation is very crucial to this. And also, right after introducing these 4 different passes, we would want our partnerships to already start to function and have these discounts for all the seasonal passes. Now, after the partnership, we would also want to hold executive meetings with Australian counterparts. Now, holding these meetings will allow for communication of the information that's going on in that branch, also in the Australian branch, and also in the Okanagan branch. And relaying this information is crucial in order for them to better equip themselves around their customers. So this would happen 3 times throughout the year. And in our last phase, we would be evaluating our first and second phases, and we would use our KPIs, which is our sales, renewals of season passes, and also how many have been renewed. And this would also be throughout the year. And then lastly, if we do have enough revenue, we would want to implement the concert charity event in the summer months. And this would be organized by all of the departments of Big White. So, considering the risk mitigations, to any of the decisions that the organization makes, the culture, the atmosphere, and the long-time employees are influenced. So how do we fix this resentment? We would want to clarify the company's values and create a voting structure to ensure the internal cohesion of the company. And next, the customers who are not responsive to the passes also would need a reevaluation in terms of whether they are sensitive to the prices or whether they are sensitive to what we are offering in the seasonal packages.
So, going back to the KPIs that I mentioned in the beginning, what we're going to see in implementing this recommendation is a 18% increase in seasons pass holders in 2016, as well as a 2.7 increase in people renewing their passes. Additionally, we're looking at about 200 potential new customers. Overall, qualitatively, we really want to enhance that sense of community, both at UBCO, at Big White, in Kelowna, and in Australia. We want to be efficient in our operations and really be accessible to anyone who wants to be up at Big White. Overall, with our strategic partnerships, our increased accessibility, our greater brand presence, and the customer satisfaction that we're going to get from this, it's going to lead to a more sustainable, inclusive, and adaptable Big White. Thank you very much, and we hope you want to come skiing with us.
So you mentioned an exclusive partnership with UBCO, but for some reason you ruled out Okanagan College as a viable partner as well. Can you dive into the reasoning on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason we chose UBCO as a more feasible option in this recommendation is because it does have the larger gauge of students, and we really wanted to focus all of our resources in one place. So in that recommendation, we were thinking that we really wanted to focus it all on UBCO. However, when we looked at it in the decision makers, we decided that by neglecting Australia and other colleges like Okanagan College, it wasn't the most feasible option. If that answers your question.
Got a question for you. Is Big White a privately owned company or is it publicly traded?
Big White seems to be a privately owned company since it's very focused on family-based consumers.
You've identified one of your key things was the formalization of the management team. When you're dealing with a private company, you're dealing with somebody's heart and soul, right? And a pretty aggressive approach on it, but how would you kind of break them into more of a corporate structure?
So we would want to simplify the structure.
Right.
So instead of having a smaller team, we would want to segregate it into 2 levels of management. So a lot of the management isn't focused on one individual or the major shareholders. So the system is operating on its own.
Right. And just one last question. You talk about having a representative of Big White on the campus. Interesting idea. This client, though, would there be another option? Maybe you indicated it's going to be very expensive. Is there possibly a slightly lower resource option to achieve that you've already thought about?
We were thinking that as a possible alternative, that maybe instead of having them going weekly, like I was saying, we could have them go once a month, or kind of to the seasons where the winter is approaching, or where it would be most efficient for them to go to people for people to go ski. So by January, February, and December, November, those would be the primary months where we would focus on having more people.
Good, thank you.
You touched on the increase in revenues and increase in number of customers, and you did outline some costs as well. Did you do any analysis to see what the profit might be on all of that?
In terms of profit, we haven't evaluated that yet, but we do have, this is how we came about the numbers for our key performance indicators. So we're looking at, from our influencers alone, we're looking at about 1,000 new students pass holders coming from that. We're going to try and hire about 100 influencers between Okanagan College and UBCO, and we're expecting each of them to bring in 10 new seasons pass holders. And then additionally, our concert that we implement in phase 3 is going to bring in about 120 new seasons pass holders. We've evaluated and bringing about 800 people to the concert, 120 of those buying passes. And then, KPI 2, 75% of seasons pass holders renew seasons passes. And then, so we decided that if about one third of our 1,120 new members continue to renew, that's going to lead to a 6.5 increase in overall renewals.
You went to a strategy of off-mountain. Then immediately you jumped into student, which I would have thought would have aligned closer to your UBC position. So when you're thinking off-mountain, what other things outside of UBC were you thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So as the partnerships in the city kind of come in, it's not only for students, but it's for anyone who owns a seasons pass. So really, it's providing a value to having a seasons pass that's not only skiing. So if I go to Montana's, I can get a 10% discount. If I go to Sapphire, maybe we can have a big white night and I can skip the line and I don't have to pay cover. Or if you wanted to go to Costco, you might get a deal on a couple different things because you are a big white seasons pass holder. And that's going to be implemented throughout the entire Kelowna community, if that answers your question.
Yeah, so did you think at all about the cost of that in terms of to the other businesses? Big White has 15,000 plus season pass holders. It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a cost that might be unfavorable?
We haven't evaluated that yet, but those numbers are definitely going to come into play in our negotiations and who chooses to partner with us and what we can do for them.
15 more seconds. Good.